I am Rachel.
And I'm Meg. And this is Ger Can Get It. This week, Ger comes from my job.
And does a really cute job at it, too.
He does. He does. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a 1970s man, so he's a little bit sexist and a little bit terrible, but he also had a sweater vest, so
And a
it
little
evened
bit
out.
sexy, so
A
hey.
little bit, yeah. Yeah, he's really cute in this.
Yeah.
If they gave awards for makeouts on screen or stage, this guy would get a lifetime achievement. He'll find any excuse to get right to second face. You honestly wouldn't believe it. Dissecting each and every kiss with tongue. There's only one conclusion to come to. It's that Ger can get it. Ger can get it.
Okay. So this week we watched 3 episodes of a TV show called The Judge. It's from the 80s. I believe the first season is 1982. I'm not 100% sure. It's like the third, I guess, in our new 3-part series of hidden, lost forever TV shows that we've just found bits and bobs of.
Which I'll put these up on YouTube too.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So everyone will. I think this was a good show. I would recommend people giving it a chance. But it's called The Judge. The first season is from 1982. All the episodes that we watched are also from 1982, but I can't tell you the exact order that they were in. Like, I can't tell you the episode number. IMDb wasn't super sure. And in fact, I am just making an educated guess that these are all from the first season because they're all 1982. Like, it's possible that like one of them is season 2 or whatever. It's the show we're in, I think, until 1985. So it's not super clear.
Was Ger on every single episode?
I believe so. I mean, so Ger plays a character called Allan Pearson, and he is the law clerk for the judge that the TV show The Judge is about. So like, I'm guessing he was in every episode, but IMDb was not super helpful for that either. It was like, I don't know, he's associated with the show basically.
So except for the 3 episodes that we have, the rest are all gone. Like, it ran for that long.
Yeah.
And then it got like lost to the sands of time.
I think so. I haven't been able to find. I mean, the other problem is there have been several TV shows called The Judge or like some variation on that.
Yeah.
So if you Google
generic.
like The Judge TV show,
it's like Matrix.
Pretty
How
much.
the fuck am I supposed to find Matrix? Oh, you mean the one with Keanu Reeves? No, I don't. But Carrie-Anne Moss. But,
I do mean the one with Carrie-Anne Moss, but not the one you're thinking of.
But not the one not the one you're thinking of. And I do want to point out, because Maria has said it several times, and I do read your comment, Maria. I see it. Yes, this is not Ger's fault, the types of roles that we keep seeing him in. As she pointed out, this is what his agent is sending him. I'm glad in this case he's in like a long-running TV series. I wish it was a long-running TV series that had stuck around.
Yeah. No, I don't think he's actively choosing things that are terrible or things that are definitely going to disappear forever into a hole in the ground, into the void.
Yeah.
But it's just they're old shows. Like, old shows didn't stick around.
Yeah,
People didn't watch them at home video.
I think our point usually is we want all the best for him. And I just wish he had been given better roles.
Yeah, but I feel like
Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're fine, but sometimes you're like, oh, I wish it's okay. But like,
I think we just had worse television for a while. I mean, I think The Judge is good.
Yeah, we had a string of really, really tough stuff. But this was good. Yeah, this felt weird because I don't think I've ever seen a show that was like, you know, all the stuff that happens outside of court. Fuck all that noise. Court.
Yeah, that's literally what I said. So I'm basically Ger's job, but permanent. So Ger, they mentioned in one of the episodes that he's there as basically like he's on an internship, which is that's a thing. You could do your clerking as an internship. But generally people do it for like 2 years after law school and then they go on to something else. I did a bunch of stuff and then I went back to work for a court and I'm a staff attorney, but it's basically the same job, only I'm there forever. It's the only difference. But yeah, I was telling my boss, because I talked to her about this show, because fun fact, I don't know the rules of evidence. I don't ever have to deal with them. It's not a thing that's like part of what I do, and it wasn't really part of what I did when I worked the DA's office doing juvenile stuff, because it's sort of like Whose Line, like the game is made up and the points don't matter. Like this,
Yeah.
so the rules of evidence like did not come up all that often. So I was talking to her about some of the things that we saw on the show, and it's in fact more accurate than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, like you never get a law show. I was telling her this. I was like, you got to watch this. Like it'll either give you PTSD or you'll really enjoy it. But like you never see a law show that is strictly limited to the courtroom. Like that
Right.
never ever happens. It's always
Like nothing else. No
Yeah.
outside drama, no the attorneys hooking up in the bathroom, no other bullshit.
Yeah.
Just court.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was thinking, I hadn't even thought about all the TV shows where it's like all of their personal shenanigans, and then like
Yeah.
in addition they're lawyers, but like usually it's here's the cops investigating it, and then here are the lawyers preparing for court, and here's like all the stuff that happens outside the building before you even get to court, and then the actual court part is always really truncated, like blah blah guilty, we all go home.
Yeah.
This is only the hallway outside the courthouse, the courtroom itself, and then the judge's chambers. Like that, those are the 3 sets. That's all you get.
Yeah.
And it is really good. But also, if you remember, I said that the year of these episodes was 1982. And that became very evident while watching it. So like it's hard to watch a different way. It's not hard. Like usually I can't watch law stuff because I'm like, this is all so obviously wrong. And things that are like things are truncated and things are upside down, and like that's not the elements of that crime, and like that's not how that works, and you should be objecting to that because that's hearsay. Like usually it's me saying like everything that you're doing is wrong. This, they were doing like all the right things, but it's 1982, so everyone is just a bad person. It's kind of how it
By
felt while
modern
watching.
standard. This might be why this one has just sort of been like, hey, maybe we don't put the Blu-ray out of The Judge.
But I would watch the Blu-ray version of this because
Yeah.
it was really good. It was really well done. Like it was, you never, like I know on all those shows, you know, when you get to the credits and there's always like John Smith, the legal consultant. It's always like, oh, did anyone even listen to John Smith? I bet John
No.
Smith was screaming all day long and they just patted him on the head and said, here's your stipend, go away.
Here's your ham sandwich.
Yeah. This it really felt like at least from approaching it from what I know and what my judge told me like 10 minutes ago, what we together know about the American legal system, it appeared pretty accurate. Like obviously in Canada everyone wears robes, and like I'm sure, and like, well, it's a federal criminal law, which we don't have here, but like I'm sure that there are other things that are different, but like on the whole the systems are similar enough that this felt very accurate and real to me, which I really appreciated. Like some things were truncated a little bit, but like I would love another show like this. Are you kidding me? Like that would be great to be like, hey, here's how things really are.
Yeah.
Plus like a little bit of drama because it's a TV show, but like overall, here's how stuff works. Like mind-blowing, amazing. And then, you know, just not with the monstrousness that it turned out you needed to have to be a lawyer in the 80s. That would be fun. So I'll get into it in a second. Okay. The first episode that we watched is called Blind Prejudice. And it starts out with Ger's character. Like, you don't even know what the case is. You don't know what the trial
No.
is. And Ger's character is like, women are going to find him guilty and men are going to say she got what she asked for. So listener, she got what she asked for. It's 1982. What do you think the crime is? Of course it's rape. Of course.
We got
like,
three,
oh.
and we got 3 like
Horrible
slam dunk
crimes.
episodes. We got sexual assault, we got spousal abuse, and
police violence.
Yeah, police
Mhm.
brutality.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
like, wow, we're just checking them boxes.
Swinging for the fences.
We're just checking them boxes. But check that one off and check the next one. I was like, wow, I am really sensitive to this right now, and this is
Well,
okay.
it's sort of like when we watched The Room and you were reading me the description of some of the other episodes. After watching
Yeah.
these 3, I'm like, what else? What other
Yeah, where do
episodes
we-
could you have?
Where do we go from here? What else did we cover? What other plucky themes did we decide to pull out of the hat?
Yeah, is the next one like an assassination attempt? Like
Genocide, mass murder,
blowing up a school bus? What like where do you go? Where do you go from like this height?
Where?
So
yeah.
The first 2 episodes are not very Ger focused. The third one is Ger focused and it goes a little off the rails, but I kind of enjoyed it because it had my favorite characteristic, and I'll get there in a second. But okay, so this one starts off with Ger being like, I don't know, maybe she deserves it. So of course, it's a rape episode. I will say, because we're in like 1982, we have like that late 70s suit, which I'm a real big fan of. So we have Ger with like the cute 70s, like, I don't know, page boy, I guess, is that what they called it? The little shorty haircut.
Yeah, it's his same haircut from some of the other things. Oh, from Paid Vacation.
Yes, yeah, he went from being a defendant to being a law clerk real quick. Good. I mean, that's a step up. That's something.
Yeah.
You're not in the dock this week. So, and it's a 3-piece suit, and we all stand a vest here. Ger with a vest. That's kind of our thing.
I mean, obviously. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, little tie. Little like 1970s corduroy everywhere. Like, I just, I didn't hate it. I hated the words coming out of his mouth, but I didn't hate the way he was dressed. So essentially what the case is there is a frumpy, middle-aged looking woman who it turns out is like 42, which was personally very hurtful for me watching this because she looks like she's 65.
Well, she's a hard 80s 42. Like, the hard living boomer 42. That's what she looks like.
It was real rough. I was like,
the sunscreen, fuck sunscreen. Where's the tanning bed, bitches? That's what she looked like.
I'm going to stare directly into the sun and put Crisco on my face. So, I did not enjoy
butter, that. You tan better. That's what she...
You can smell that it's working. I lost my train of thought. I was so upset by her being in her 40s. So, wow, that really just took my brain away. I was so mad about her age. Okay. So, she is the victim in this case. And she essentially, what we will find out is that she basically offered herself sexually to the young handyman, who looks like Ger's surfer cousin. Like they're styled exactly the same. They're both blonde, except this kid has slightly longer, curlier hair. But like it's that same kind of young, dumb and full of cum 70s boy vibe.
Mm-hmm.
You will find that she offered herself to the handyman. The handyman was like, yes, please. They start having sex. The woman changes her mind halfway through. And then there's like, they're not really clear about whether the young handyman hears her or acknowledges her. But either way, he keeps on going. So the wife eventually, the woman eventually will go to the police and let them know that she has been raped, and then they will try it. So we get to the trial. Her first version of the testimony is that he totally forced himself on her and she never invited it. And then halfway through, she reveals, I did invite it, but then I stopped in the middle. And I will say that like they go into a pretty nuanced discussion of consent, and like you can withdraw it. And once you've withdrawn it, if he keeps going, at that point, it's rape. And like, I was like, oh, I was really surprised to have that in a TV show in 1982.
In a TV show at all.
Oh, at all, frankly. Yeah,
and then
frankly.
In 1982.
Yeah. Because I mean, that is an accurate recitation of the law. It was weird the way they did it, though, because they have her testimony and then the judge starts asking her questions, which like is a thing that happens sometimes, but like probably should happen less, aka 0% of the time, but like can happen. And then the judge like stopped halfway through and like turned to the jury and was like giving like a little mini jury instruction before the end. And I'm like, I get the instinct, but like probably you got to wait till the end. Like it's a little weird to just do it in the middle. But I appreciated that information came out at all, because like how often do you get that? I mean, it shouldn't be that hard of a concept to get, but it's sort of a nuanced conversation. And like I appreciated that it was being addressed at all in a TV show ever. But it is 1982, so the jury immediately finds him not guilty. And I was like, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm.
I don't love that. And then separately, it sort of appears like her husband is the one who made her bring it to court in the first place and made her lie in the beginning that he had totally forced himself on her and that she had not been a willing participant at all. And then there's like 2 scenes in the hallway of the husband being like, you don't get to tell me shit anymore because you cheated on me, even though I am an objectively crappy spouse and like am abusing you by neglect. And it was a little bit heavier than I was hoping for in my Fun Ger program of the week. Yeah. But it was I thought it was really well done. I liked that they had the Ger character throughout all this doing what a law clerk always does, which is the second you get behind doors and chambers going, holy shit, oh my god, did you see that? That was crazy. Like, yeah, that is exactly how that works. You have loud opinions. You share them with the judge. I thought it was funny that the judge character in the show, he's really trying to like uphold the law, like in terms of like propriety. Like he's trying to be like very prim and proper, and like I don't have personal opinions on these things. And then the Garrett character is basically like eating popcorn and going, holy shit, did you see that skank? I was like, yeah, I mean, not incorrect, not how that like not how that would go. And like I'm aware like the Garrett character is meant to be a third-year law student, so he's in like his late 20s, maybe early 30s. I like him immediately being like, I bet that guy did nothing wrong. I'm like, I went to school with that kid. I know who that kid is. Like, yeah.
Is that you, Chad?
Yeah. Probably that's not an inaccurate version of that character, but and then they like, okay, so I appreciate also that the line of questioning that defense counsel has is exactly the same asshole line of questioning that you hear today. I was like, oh, look, the continuation of the spectrum. Like, I didn't see any bruises on you. Are you sure you were raped? It took you a long time to complain to the cops. Are you sure you were raped? And I was like, oh, okay. So that literally, that train of thought has just been going this entire time.
Yes.
Since the 70s.
Yes.
It did not stop. It did not pick up or let off any passengers.
We've
it just kept going.
No better. Correct.
No.
Yeah. But you don't look hurt.
No. Yeah.
Are you sure you're hurt?
Yeah. How loudly did you scream? Did you scream loud enough? The one part that I thought was a little bit weird, and I should have talked to my boss about it, because I like reenacted all the episodes for her. I was like, then this happened, and then that happened. Like, you tell me, what are your thoughts? But at one point, the defense counsel starts asking the handyman character about like how many previous sexual partners he's ever had. And when he says 2, she's like, so you wouldn't know if they were screaming from pleasure or pain. And I'm like, I feel like that's not how that works. Like, I feel like if he thought if she were like screaming like ow versus screaming like yes, those are just different noises that a person, I mean, maybe it gets a little dicey in the middle there. I don't know. Maybe there's a gray area of which I'm not aware, but it seemed like a weird line of questioning. Like, I sort of get why they were doing that, because the handyman character was like, you know how women are. You know how women are. And the defense counsel's like, do you know how women are? You've done it twice. Like, how much of a sexual Lothario expert are you? And he's like, not really. It's like, okay, sir. But it just seemed like a weird, like, I get that the attorney is trying to discredit him, but I was like, that's a weird, did that feel weird to you to watch them basically just call him not a good enough lover to know whether he's raping someone or not?
I struggled with this episode. I always struggle with anything sexual assault adjacent. So my recollection is not clear, but
fair.
Everything about it felt very like I could watch a trial today and it would probably be this.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, like, very accurate. Just
like I wanted it to be dated, but it didn't feel that dated.
Yeah. Well, I will say, so obviously, like, I work remote now, so like I don't sit in on the criminal cases. I was gonna say as much at all. I don't sit in on them anymore. I used to sit in on them a little bit, like, well, when I was full time in Michigan, and then when I was, doing stuff in Nevada, I would sit in. And we definitely, it seemed like rape, like that was one of the ones that like came up more frequently. So like there were more rape trials than like other ones. And like I would sit there every time and be like, oh, he's so guilty. Oh, this guy totally guilty. Like, listen to all this evidence. So guilty. And like 75% of the time it would come back like, nah, she deserved it. And I'm like, no, no, no. This is horseshit. No, like,
she showed her ankles. She was asking for it.
Or, I mean, the like, I gave consent and then withdrew it. Like, that is not an unusual, crazy fact pattern. Like, that's a thing that happens in the world. And juries don't seem to like that very much at all. Although I will say that I like, obviously, like I'm probably, maybe you feel the same way. When I approach a rape episode, my first thought is hang him. Like, I'm like guilty, like immediately. Like you'd have to show me a lot. You'd have to show me a lot to make me disbelieve the victim, like in a rape TV show. Like that's kind of like my default way of approaching that, like emotionally. But I feel like they did a good job of humanizing that character. Like they start off with his mother in the hallway trying to find the courtroom. So like already you're sort of inclined to be sympathetic because like you see his mom. And then when he's talking about the sex scene, he really seems surprised that she could have thought it was non-consensual. Like he's like, if she said something, I did not hear it. And like, yeah, she was screaming, but she was screaming with pleasure. So he really looks, I mean, it's hard to see exactly how he looks because it's a blurry copy of a VHS tape that's fully 50 years old. Like it's doing the best it can. But from what I could tell, his character looks really like personally distraught. Like, was
like
I wrong?
Did I rape her? Like I didn't think I did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting, it like makes me dislike the ending less because it feels less like a guy that got away with it and more like a guy that had no idea, like didn't have the awareness, like didn't like misunderstood whatever signals she was giving him. And maybe they weren't like clear enough that he could have understood them. And so at the end of it, he's like he doesn't know what happened.
Right.
So like how you don't get that nuance on Law and Order. On Law and Order, they're like, we thought it was that guy, but then it turned out it was this guy. Dun dun dun. End of episode. So like this kind of nuance. Yeah. Thank you.
You're
Correct.
Welcome.
So like this kind of nuance, I really appreciated it, even though like you said, I don't love watching a 1982 rape episode. That's not fun for me. But like
and this was like these were like
good.
Short episodes. They're like 24 minutes long, so they were probably 30 minutes with commercials.
Yeah.
So this is like a quick little court bite.
Yeah, no, like a little rape nibble, sure.
Yeah. So I was like, oh, like you're expecting, I don't know. I'm expecting these to be an hour long, but I guess when you're not filling it with a lot of drama, you didn't need it. You just need like a chunk and then the little judge splash screen where the black and white version of the judge and it just goes, judge! And then it goes away and then back again.
I really liked the theme music for this show, and I don't know how to describe it except Rumpole of the Bailey. And like nobody listening to this is going to be like, oh yeah, the Rumpole of the Bailey theme song. That's what it sounded like to me, like a musical stinger.
Yeah.
I don't know, like classical instruments stinger. I don't know. When Rachel puts it online, you'll hear it and be like, oh yeah, Rumpole of the Bailey. That is accurate.
Okay,
good job, Meg. But it's very much like. It's like very sweet and very like we're taking this very seriously and like look how hard we're working on our little TV show. I liked it. I liked it so much. So that was Blind Prejudice. So the next episode that we watched was called For Better or Worse. And
the spousal abuse one.
It was so rough. It's so good, but like these are like they're too accurate. They're like
heavy
a little
topics. They're heavy topics.
It's
Yeah. I want to know, was this like an early, like it's 30-minute time slot. It's not an evening time slot. Was this like in amongst some soap operas? Were you like General Hospital, Guiding Light, The Judge?
It's hard to know because the vibe is very serious, but you're right. Like the episode length is kind of short. And then the stingers with Ger and the judge in Chambers are like a little lighter, a little fluffier than like the actual matter of the crimes.
It felt like it must have filled some kind of sitcom slot, like the 30-minute sitcom slot.
Can you imagine you're watching your sitcoms and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, spousal abuse. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I mean, it's cool, but I've just never seen. I'm still not over that. I've never seen this format of television show since.
Yeah, it's definitely its own unique category that we don't seem to have anymore.
It's like Judge Judy, but Judge Judy tries to pretend it's real court. This never pretended it was real court, so it could cover these.
But this felt more serious than Judge Judy, even though Judge Judy has probably fake real characters. Like this felt had more gravitas than Judge Judy.
Well, it's interesting that it falls so close to Paid Vacation because it speaks to maybe like a weird awareness of like Law and Order during this time period. where it's like paid vacation was highlighting like the bias in the system where they just go after him and they don't ever consider any other suspects. And then this was like, hey, you guys want to know what real court is like? Let's do a more or less accurate 30-minute court show. Well, it's kind of like cop propaganda. You know, the like police propaganda shows that we watch now, or the like true crime document. It's like that's the moment right now. This feels like this was a court moment. Like maybe there was this weird little court moment at the end of the 70s, beginning of the 80s.
Yeah. Well, and like the seriousness and the accuracy of both of those programs, or the movie, I guess, and this TV show, we don't seem to have anything like that. I mean, like the true crime, but then it's like, here's one particular real thing. And then all of the law TV shows and the cop TV shows are just so fanciful. Like some of them don't even, like The Rookie doesn't try to provide like an accurate depiction of what it's like to be a rookie police officer. Are you kidding me? Like, no. And Law and Order likes to pretend it's sort of realistic. But then if you watch it for more than 5 minutes, you're like, the realism is, I guess, that they're all wearing suits and their feet touch the ground. And then everything after that is just pretty out there.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, I wonder if that was having a moment. If that was having a moment. And that's why we got this cool little show right in this moment here before we decided, hey, maybe cops are more interesting.
Yeah, all the stuff that happens outside the courtroom.
Turns out it's really hard to make fluffy television show about court proceedings.
Yeah, and maybe that's what it is like, I feel like we don't have non-fluffy TV shows anymore.
Yeah.
Like if you have the shows where they give you any kind of seriousness in terms of the person's job, they immediately have to counterweight it with but we're all nubile and naked a lot, and we'll have sex with each other in janitor's closets.
Yeah. What if I was a lawyer who could see ghosts and they would help me on my case?
Yes. Correct. Yeah.
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 Yep.
Not lying. Okay. So
I don't know. If you were around in the late 70s, early 80s and you were watching TV, let me know. Was Court having a moment? Feels like Court was having a moment, yeah.
Were there other shows like this? Well, I mean, and like Rumpole of the Bailey, like the English version, like that was earlier than this, but I think it was the late 70s. But even that was sort of, it was realistic in terms of the law, and sort of like if you're a defense attorney, like the kind of characters that you're going to be dealing with. But it was still like a little more lighthearted than this, like a little sillier. And there were still a lot of focus on the interpersonal dynamics of the chambers that he worked at. So like that one was closer to this, but like still not as accurate as this, because that still had like the goofy stuff.
Yeah.
So the next episode that we saw was For Better or Worse. And as Rachel said, it is the spousal abuse episode. So we essentially have, this is the darkest. This is so fucking dark. So it turns out that a husband has lost his job. And on Christmas Eve, he comes home late. He comes home drunk. He beats the shit out of the wife in her bathtub. So she is bleeding from her face. The kids are in the next room. They're a little boy and a little girl, Holly and Michael. And I think, I'm like, we've said this before, I'm not good at kid ages. I feel like they're maybe like 9 and 6 or like 10 and 8.
That would probably be. Yeah.
Itty bitty.
I think they say they're 9 and something. Like I think they.
Yeah. That sounds vaguely familiar. That might have been when I was disassociating while watching this show. Yeah. But they're in the next room, and the little boy is crying, and the little girl is trying to keep him quiet because you don't want to be loud when daddy's beating mommy up. And the cops come in and they get him basically. And so that's the basis for the. They don't call it assault GBH, but I think that's essentially like it's for the domestic violence, for the wife beating case. They keep saying wife beating over and over and over again. So in this case, it's a bench trial, which again, when do you ever get to even watch a bench trial on TV? Like the concept of that, I feel like they never even have. But so we get to watch that. We get to have the police officers get up on the stand and go like, what did you want me to do? Like if I didn't stop him, he was going to kill her. Like, what did you want? And then you have the wife who didn't want to press charges, which she can say she doesn't want to press charges, but like it's the decision, it's the prosecutor's decision. It's I think in Canada, they're Queen's Counsel. So it's their decision. So like her being like, I don't want to go through with this. Okay, but like at the end of the day, like that you're not the only voice that matters. So she doesn't
Yeah.
want to go through with this. And then her kids are sitting there in the audience because they brought the kids in. Because of course they brought the kids in. And the little girl is going, please don't send my daddy to prison. But this kid needs an Emmy. This kid needs all of the awards. Because this is the hardest thing I've ever watched on TV. And this like fun little like 30-minute TV show. It's like
It was like a Denny flashback.
yes, correct. She
Yeah.
looked like Cindy Lou Who, but with brown hair. She's like, she might as well have been in her little PJs in court.
Yeah.
She's like the most precious little like sugar dumpling of a child. And she's like, please, my daddy, he only hurts mommy when he drinks. And I was like, oh no. Oh God.
Oh, this was so hard.
It was so rough. Well,
It
and
was
so they had the
so
kids
hard.
testify. And so I was talking
Yeah.
with my boss because I was like, it has been a while since I've seen kids testify. And like, admittedly, the only time it ever came up was like the stuff that I did wasn't criminal. It was civil, like the child abuse cases, the ones like the side of child abuse that we did is civil, like the worst that happens to you at the end of it, if you never do what you're supposed to do, is that you would lose your rights to your kids. You're not going to prison, you lose your rights. So it's like it's a different side of things. So we had some hearings where kids testified, but they're civil. So like the standard is different. It's lesser. So those kids could talk to the judge in chambers, and then we had these like little weird hearings where the kid could testify, but like no one was allowed to ask any questions. And it was just like a very weird, different kind of thing. So I was talking to her about like this a little bit, and I was like, I thought when kids testified, like in criminal cases, there were like different ways of protecting the kids. Like I thought they did it like outside of court or like in chambers. And she was like, no, it wouldn't be in chambers because it's criminal. You've got your confrontation rights. But she's like, yeah, like generally now, there are, if you can meet certain standards, you could have either the kid or the defendant in like a separate courtroom, but like live streamed sort of. So you still like,
Okay.
so you've got them like protected, but there's still like a right of confrontation. And I think we didn't talk about this, but I think what I had heard is like before, like in the 70s, they're not going to have live streaming, obviously, or I guess the early 80s. But I thought there was a way to like screen the kid a little bit so that like the defendant could see them, but they couldn't see the defendant, like physical screens. I think there's like ways to like protect the kid, but also have the defendant have the right of confrontation. But to get that, you'd have to file a motion, I guess, and like meet certain standards. So the fact that they have the kid sitting there on the witness stand, like everybody else, was actually accurate to like how it could go. And I was really impressed by that. Like in terms of showing that on TV, I thought that was really interesting. And I liked that at the end. So I didn't actually like the resolution of this, but I liked that they showed correct correct things within the realm of possibility, I
Yeah.
guess. Because so at the end, they end up doing a deferred sentence and having the defendant required to do like a what do you call it? A rehab situation. And if he successfully completes the rehab, then his deferred sentence will be vacated and go away, basically. So I was like, oh, I like that you're showing that deferred sentences are a thing that exists. I don't like that this is the episode that you decided to show that to us in, because like,
Yeah.
if you're violent, you're not getting a deferred sentence. Are you shitting me? Like, no. And then two, the way that they get to the deferred sentence is all of a sudden halfway through, they're just like, what if we do a party in chambers? And I'm like, no, sir. No, let's not do that. And like, it's not totally crazy to have both attorneys in chambers, like talking to the judge. Like, that's a thing that happens. You're like trying to figure out jury instructions or whatever. Like you both go back into chambers and talk to him. You don't bring your fucking clients into chambers, and you don't bring the defendant and his abused spouse and plop them on the couch in the judge's office. Like, no. Fucking no. And then they like sit around and they're like, well, the real problem is the demon rum. And I was like, oh, like, no, the problem is that he beats her when he drinks. Like, the problem is
Yeah.
not that rum exists. Like, that's not. So sending someone to drug court instead of sending them to prison, like, yeah, that's a real thing, and that's great, and I'm happy that that's a thing that they're showing on a TV show. Not for this guy, not in this
Yeah.
case. And then at the end, the judge is like, hope you don't beat her up over Christmas. Give the kids 7-Up. And the episode ends. And I was like, 1982.
It turns out 1982 was a long time ago. You know, I watched this shit and I think, this is 3 years older than me. Like, oh, that's why I am the way I am.
Yeah. It's what, 1982. So it's 5 years older than I am. And I was watching it and I was like, oh, I'm 100 years old. I am the world's oldest person who's ever lived.
No, every time, because I know I watched shows that were this old when I was younger. And then I go back and watch them now and I'm like, why do they look so bad? They didn't look that bad when I watched them before.
Because now you're 100 years old.
Oh, yes, it's my failing eyesight. My old age.
We forgot to mention that the defense counsel is our favorite street legal gremlin. Remember the weird sex gremlin from Street Legal, the attorney who is marrying the lady who is objectively much nicer looking than he should be able to get.
Yes. And one of them was a guy I recognized, but I couldn't place him.
The guy in the next episode. Yeah, we've seen him in lots of stuff.
I was like, oh,
the tall, skinny guy.
You. Yeah.
Yeah. I had the same thing too, where he was in, I think, every children's show made in Canada between the time I was born and the time I left.
Yeah, that sounds right.
He always plays like the scary adult that scares children. So he's like scary, but like not scary enough that he can't be around kids in a kids show. He's like little kid scary. It's hard to.
Yeah.
But in this, he got to be a real dick. We'll get to him in the next episode. But yeah, our little gremlin was there asking gremlin-y questions about what the wife actually remembers. And then the judge is like, she doesn't seem to remember a whole lot. And I was like, because she was beaten in a bathtub. Like,
she was
that might hurt your memory.
Assaulted you.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to see if I have any other smart thoughts on this, but it was just it was just that they like it was, you know, when you're like, I'm happy with some of the legal things, but then there are places where you go so off the wall that I was just like, I don't even know how to begin to address how you became a social worker halfway through this episode. Like,
yeah.
I appreciate that you're hitting on social issues and showing that like diversion is a thing that like the legal system does sometimes. And like, I'm super happy about it, but also you reached that good place the worst fucking way you could have. And then it's like, I feel like the Ger character was barely in that episode, but like he would pop up and say like dumb shit about like believing the husband or like, he's not that bad. I'm just like, I don't. Shh.
Are you going on to be a lawyer, sir?
Let's talky. You talking it. It makes me real sad on my inside. I just, yeah, I don't know.
It was of the moment.
It was of the moment. Well, especially when they end and the judge is like, bailiff, get them all the 7-Up. And I was like, that's where we end this one? We just like, it felt like a commercial. It was like, and then 7-Up fixed all your child abuse problems.
Yay!
Drinking 7-Up.
I'm not Burger King. Got all my jingles mixed up.
Well, and he said it like a callback, but like there is no, this is not a, like there was no 7-Up moment previously. It was just like, well, those kids are abused, but I gave them their daddy back for Christmas. Let's all celebrate with it, like a pop. Yeah. Yeah. It was rough.
Oh,
not my favorite episode, but like, again, I am happy that they talk about diversion because like you don't get that on TV. So like good job show for being accurate, even though you were also accurate to the time, which is to say everyone sucked. Then we get to my favorite episode, which is Strike for Liberty. And I like this one because it was very Ger-centric. Because it literally starts off with a lady lawyer walking through the halls and being like, oh my God, Ger, we were in law school together. I haven't seen you in so long. You are so handsome. You are so sexy. Are you here for a statutory rape case because the women can't keep their hands off you? And I was like, 30 seconds. 30 seconds. I don't love the statutory rape part. We're going to push past that a little bit. But also like ding, 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 like hitting all the characteristics. And I was like, okay, I mean, I appreciate that. I appreciate.
God. Why in the 80s were they like, hey, rape's funny? And then we got to the 90s and they were like, you know what's actually more hysterical? Suicide. I think we should just throw those out at every possible opportunity.
Our
That'll
culture
be great.
was bad. I'm just gonna go out and say it. The culture was not good. The culture was not in a good place. But I just look, I need some silver lining to the very depressing, like accurate and good, but like super fucking depressing triumvirate of episodes we saw this week. So like anytime a woman's like, damn, look at that ass. I'm like, yay.
Yay. That's the quality content you come to Ger Can Get It for.
That's what I wanted. I don't even remember her name. I just remember her being like, damn, boy. Like, yeah. So she had gone to law school with Ger. She's a legit lawyer now working for the Canadian version of the ACLU, basically. And Ger is still a third-year law student, and he must go to York University because they keep mentioning Osgoode Hall, which is the name of York University's law school. So he's like, that's a good school. That's like a pretty fancy law school. And so they're like reminiscing on stuff. And then it turns out that she has a case in front of his judge. And she's like, oh yeah, we call that guy the fascist. And he's like, well, he's really more center left. And I'm like, is center left a little different in the 70s and the 80s? Because the shit that I've heard the three of you say this entire time, if you're center left, like, I don't want to know what right is. Was right like you'd walked into court like doing the Hitler salute? Like how, anyways, the judge is fine. The judge is fine. The judge is a fine character, but more center than left, I feel like would be a fair representation of his character. So they come in, and the case this week is what? And they're like hitting the cop. It's an assault on a police officer. So the case this week is an assault on a police officer. And essentially the story is there is a photographic film factory, which high 1982 when we still had film for cameras.
Yeah.
So the factory workers go on strike because it's Canada and we do that a lot. We're like the French that way. They go on strike except for the Chinese workers, which will become relevant in a second. The deep discomfort that this show had with Asian people as a monolith. We're going to get there in a second, but just know that there are workers who are striking, and the ones who are not striking are mainly Chinese origin workers. So the workers are striking, and then the ones who are not striking, I guess, are coming in to the gates on a bus because all the other workers are blocking the front. So the good workers come in on a little bus. So the workers who are striking, they prevent the bus from getting in, and there are cops, and the cops are trying to, I guess, help this process go along. And what ends up happening is this police officer gets injured during this strike. That's really like all that we know for sure. He gets injured. So they think it's this one guy whose name is Anthony John Holland. Doesn't matter. The dude. So we think it's the dude that has hurt the cop. And so he's charged with assault. We have our case. This is all super truncated, by the way. He shows up into court and they're like, how do you plead? He's like, not guilty. And they're like, great, let's do the trial. And then they do the trial and they're like, great, let's do sentencing. And I was like, I would love if we were that fast. We are not that fast. That is not how that works. I mean, like, I wouldn't actually love if we were that fast because, like, for sentencing, you want to have a pre-sentencing investigation and you want to have a report and you want to be able to get all your stuff together to make like a good decision as to how this person should be sentenced and not do it 30 seconds later by having like an emotional discussion about your conscience with Ger in the back room. But like, whatever, it's TV, it's fine. So he says not guilty and they're like, cool, trial. So we have the trial. And so what we end up having is the cop that was beaten, who is like, I love the caricature that this cop is. Like, he's like big dumpy McFat ass. Yeah. So he gets up there. He looks like the cop that would beat the shit out of you. And like, it turns out he is.
Yeah, no, so, he does. No argument here.
Yeah.
No.
So good casting. Excellent casting. He looks correct for the character. So he gets up there and he's like, okay, I was trying to stop people from trying to like break into the bus, I guess. there's a guy in front of me. I'm trying to grab him. And then all of a sudden, and he's like, and I did not use a disproportionate amount of force. And I'm like, well, the second that you say that, my bullshit meter goes up, because I know that, like, if you know to say that, that means that you have not been doing that. Like, let's be real honest in our hearts. So he's like, I tried to grab the guy. Then there's a guy behind me, and the guy behind me grabs my nightstick and beats the shit out of me until I pass out. And then I wake up later with another cop standing above me, like fanning my face. So that's his version. Another cop who had been like involved in all this, who's around, is like, I saw there was a guy in front of him and a guy behind him. And I saw that he had his nightstick in his hand. And then I saw the nightstick was not in his hand. And then I saw him on the ground. And so the defense attorney is like, has to ask him like 4 times, did you actually see the guy hit him? And finally he's like, no, I guess I didn't. But I saw the nightstick go away and he fell down. So, I figured. And the woman's like, no, that's not how that works. So,
yeah.
Then we end up having the defendant testify. We had the defendant testify. And he's like, I didn't hit the guy. I didn't hit the cop. He was beating the shit out of my friend with his nightstick in front of him. And so, like, he raised his arm to, like, give him another big whack, and I grabbed the nightstick out of his hand. I don't know how he got hit, if he did get hit. I don't know how he fell into the ground. I did not hit him. I just took his nightstick away to stop him from killing my friend. And so it will turn out, we will find out outside of court, like in the hallway, we will find out that this cop has a propensity to violence. Like, everybody knows that this cop is the cop who kicks the shit out of people. And then it will also turn out that the defendant, it's not super clear from this, but I will tell you why I think what I think in a second. But it will turn out that defendant probably also has a reputation for violence. And so the Queen's counsel, so like the state's attorney and the defense counsel, they make kind of a deal in the hallway. They're like, look, I won't bring up this if you don't bring up that. I won't bring up the cops' violence if you don't bring up the kids' violence. And they're like, yes, okay, good. So Ger's character, fucking scandalized. So scandalized by this. Like, they're making deals. And I was like, admittedly, like, I've never heard of people making a deal as to, like, this evidence won't, like, this evidence that could legitimately come in, I will not bring it in, and therefore you will not bring that in. I feel like in real life it would be more like, I, as the defendant, am not going to introduce this evidence, and because I'm not introducing this evidence, you are not allowed to bring in rebuttal evidence to the thing I didn't bring in. Like, I feel like that's more how it would work. Yeah. But, like, is it crazy to me that they would have that conversation? No. Do I think that, like, that it happens a lot? Like, no. But, like, do I think it's crazy? Like, also no. But Ger's character is like, I thought the law was moral. Like, he has like a whole like emotional break. He's like, what even is this? And I'm like, oh, my sweet summer child. You spent 2 episodes being like, bitch got what was coming to her. And then here you're just like, who are we as a people? I'm like, oh, that's adorable. I just want to boop you on the nose and be like, oh, like a little kitten of a man. Like, yeah. I like it so much. And then Ger's character knows that there's a deal. He doesn't at this time know that the cop has like a history of violence. And like somehow he like leaves the building like on his lunch break and somehow like 1970 Googles cops that beat the shit out of people and finds this guy's name on a list. Like, it's not clear to me how he would find that information out in his 20-minute lunch break. But he finds it out and he comes back and he tells the judge. And the judge, which I also find funny, is like, why are you tainting me with outside information? And like, yes, okay, yes, he shouldn't be tainting you with outside information. But also, it's not a bench trial, it's a jury trial. And if you think that the judge never knows shit that the jury doesn't know, I got a bridge to sell you. Because I'm going to be honest, probably that happens more often than you would think. Like, people know shit. Like, even if it's not like this, like coming in through a back door, if you're the judge in a small town and there's only so many cops and like maybe every time this cop gets up on the stand, the defendants all happen to have the same kind of black eye. Like, you're not stupid. Like, you're going to figure shit out. So right. Like, the level of like utter utter beautiful, like in a perfect world, moral and ethical scandal that Ger and the judge go through. I was like, oh, I like that you could be scandalized that way. You don't live in the real world with the rest of us, and like that's fine. You live in a better world. In this episode
Yeah.
only. In the first 2 episodes, you both kind of sucked a little bit, but like in this episode, you're like Tenderheart the Care Bear. Like you're living in a better plane than we do. Like, oh,
Isn't Tenderheart the penguin?
I thought he was the lion. Am I
No, Braveheart is the lion.
Braveheart? I don't look. The Care Bears are slightly before my time, but he just feels like a Care Bear.
Those are the Care Bear cousins anyway.
Wow, that's
If they're
the
not
deep
bears, then they're the cousins.
cut.
God, Meg. I like Swift-Heart. That's the rabbit. And then there's these two. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's fine.
No, go on. Tell me more about the Care Bears.
No, it's okay. It's
You
fine.
sure?
Yeah. There's these two. Okay. It doesn't matter. It's fine.
No, tell me. The two what?
Oh,
They're
it's
two that do
just-
what?
I was watching with the kids. I have not watched the Care Bears movies in forever, and I was watching them with the kids. And there's two. I think they're Care Bear cousins. I think one is like they're not bears. There's something else.
Okay.
But one has like a mane, like a rainbow colored mane, like a bisexual colored mane, and the other one has like a similarly rainbow style, and they're both like maybe female coded, but not effeminate coded. They're like
Butch Care Bears?
they're a happy bi couple is what they are. And so they're like, I was like, oh, this explains something, I feel. And so I took a picture. I was like, they're like the fabulous aunties for all the cousins, for all the Care Bear
You
cousins.
did not immediately send me a photo of the
I did actually, but this was a while ago. I'll have to dig it up again.
I would have remembered if you sent me the lesbian Care Bear anti-couple. How dare you? I thought our friendship meant something.
Let me see if it's in my phone while we're talking about the judge. So anyway, Care Bears is way more gay than I thought it was.
I always kind of I know Kathy did a voice on Care Bears, but I was aware of Care Bears. I remember seeing at least one of the movies, but it was like I was born in 1987, so like it was kind of weaning down by the time that I come onto the scene.
That's fair.
So like I don't have a lot of Care Bear experience.
I had older siblings who would have had that put on for them.
So while you're looking up Care Bears, so in this episode, as I said, they mentioned that the workers who were still going to the job while the strikes are going on were mostly Chinese. And they have one of the workers who was on the bus, and he's able to testify that he saw the police officer beating the shit out of some unnamed, the friend of the defendant. We don't know his name, some guy. So he's like, yeah, I saw the police officer beating the shit out of this guy. I didn't see anybody hit the police officer. I saw like the defendant. Yeah, he was behind the cop. I didn't see him hit the cop, but the cop ends up on the ground. And they bring in an interpreter, that's how you do it. You have the interpreter and you ask the question and you pause, and the interpreter then repeats it to the witness, and then they tell you in their language, and then the interpreter gives you the answer. However, not only does this episode have a police officer almost use a very specific slur for Chinese people that I have not heard since I was a little kid, which like I know it's meant to be like realistic, and it's a fat dumpy cop in the 80s, and like probably that's the word that he would have used, but I was like not expecting it, and I was like, oh, you just like a little racism in there. And then weirdly, even more offensively and like just bizarrely, is so they have the court clerk swear the Chinese speaking witness in, but they don't just like what you should do is it's one oath. It's just the same oath for everybody. It's like, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Like that's like you give the one oath. They give like a weird like ancient Chinese poem version of the oath, which I was not expecting. They're like, I swear to give truth and not to be like the cracked saucer underneath the broken pot. And I was like, oh, this is offensive. This is like, it felt sort of like they were like, a Chinese man would not know what truth is. Let us explain it to him in terms of broken pottery. And I was like, I don't, I
Yeah.
don't feel good watching this. I don't, is this a hate crime? Like, I was like, oh. So, anyways, so they'll have the trial. The defendant ends up getting found guilty of beating up the cop, but then the foreperson of the jury is like, actually, Your Honor, could you maybe give him a lenient sentence? And the judge is like, well, that's literally not, you're not allowed to, that you're not part of that discussion, like, at all. The only time the jury is involved in sentencing is sometimes in death penalty cases, I think, where they get to like say like, yes, death penalty, no death penalty. I think I know that they're involved like in some way in that, but for like regular sentencing, like, A, that's not happening today usually, and B, you don't get to say anything. So the judge gets to be all snarky with them, and then he goes back into chambers and he's like, like, they know the cop is a person beater. They know the cop is abusive. And now I know the cop is abusive because Ger gave me his like special outside of class homework that proves that the cop is abusive. I know too much. Like, what am I going to do? And then Ger's character is like, you should use your conscience. And the judge is like, what romance novel bullshit did you get that from? And I was like, okay, you've been really delicate this entire time and like emotionally involved in all these cases. Somebody telling you to use your conscience feels like exactly what you've been doing this whole time. But I love that, like, now you're like hard boiled. Oh, wow. That is a lesbian couple. That is.
That's Noble Heart. It's a horse.
That's a horse?
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's got a tail, but like.
True Heart and Noble Heart.
I love that all the Care Bears all have the same face. I love that they're all the same fucking thing. But they're like, no, this time it's a lion. I can't.
Look.
It's blurry. I can't. Oh, wow. You're the little one, aren't you? Look at you. You're like the little yellow one. That's
Look
like...
it. Hey, sorry. I had to.
No, I appreciate the lesbian Care Bear digression. I'm sorry. What are the names again if people want to look them up? Noble Heart and what?
Noble Heart and True Heart.
True Heart and Noble Heart. The lesbian Care Bear couple. Care Bear cousin couple, I guess.
Look it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, she goes to clubs on weekends.
I know it's supposed to be a mane, but it just it's like the most bisexual hairstyle. It's the most bisexual coded cartoon character I think I've ever seen in my entire life. And I was like, oh, okay, there's one.
It's a lady that's good at chopping wood, I think. She gives me that kind of vibe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. She owns some flannel shirts. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have the anti-Chinese racism. We have the trial. The jury is like, could you maybe be nice to him? And then the judge has like a searing night of the soul. And I don't remember what I just watched this 12 seconds ago. I don't remember what
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. These were really difficult.
These are a little hard to get through. Like, he sentences him.
They were not Airwolf. They were not Airwolf because they were good. They were interesting.
But like a little intricate.
Yeah.
Anyways,
yeah. Okay.
He goes with his conscience and he sentences him, but I think it's like to a lesser degree than what he could have, based on him knowing that the cop is a piece of shit and probably.
Yeah, that was definitely the theme, is like, but maybe mercy.
Yeah.
But also maybe not.
But what was interesting, the agreement that the two lawyers make in the hallway is, I, as the defense counsel, will not raise the officer's propensity for violence, or I guess inappropriate violence. And then therefore the Queen's counsel, the state's attorney, will not raise, like she just says, like, will not like bring up stuff about the defendant. But when I was talking to my judge, because I was like, I thought you couldn't bring up bad acts evidence, but she's like, no, that's just, you can't bring up bad acts about the defendant. And I'm like, okay, so this guy's not defendant, this guy is a witness. And she's like, okay, you could bring up a character trait, his reputation. So this cop has a reputation for violence, or like, I guess, excessive violence. But if you open that door, then that's when the state can turn around and go, here is here's your reputation, but only for the same exact trait. So that's why I think that the defendant, must also have a reputation for violence, because that's the only, like, it has to be the same on both of them for you to bring it in. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, like that would have been helpful if they'd explain. Like, I know they're not, because like it's a TV show. It's like a, bubbly TV show. But like, it would have been a little helpful if they had explained that a little bit more. But she's like, no, that's exactly how it would work. You would bring in like some other cop and you would ask him questions like, hey, have you ever worked with Officer so-and-so? And they'd be like, oh my God, yeah, what's his reputation? Oh, he's a piece of shit. He's always beating the hell out of hippies. And so you get that information in. So then you've got his reputation in. And then what turns around is they bring one of your friends and they're like, oh yeah, the defendant is always beating the shit out of cops or his wife or dogs or whatever. He's
Yeah.
beating the shit out of people. He's also a very violent character. And so like it's like badminton. Like you like bop it back and forth. So I was
Like,
like,
they negate
oh,
each other almost.
yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So when I first saw this, I was like, oh, this is a thing that you couldn't bring in. This is that you couldn't bring in. And then I was talking with her and she's like, no, like in this instance, this is the kind of thing that you actually could bring in. So I was like, oh, like this is surprisingly good. The only thing that came up that I was like, I've never seen this before and it seems weird. What do you think? Is they have the world's creepiest state's counsel. He is holding up a ring of like janitor's keys, like a giant ring of like 40 keys. And he asks the one cop witness, the one who's like, I didn't actually see the cop get hit, but like I saw him fall down and I saw the nightstick disappear. So I put two and two together. The guy he holds up his ring of keys and he's like, what's in my hand? And the witness is like, a ring of keys. And then he drops it on the ground and he's like, what happened? Like, what just happened? And the witness is like, you dropped the ring of keys? And he goes, oh, did you actually see it fall and hit the ground? And then the two lawyers start like at each other. And I was like, I know you can use demonstrative evidence sometimes. I've never seen something like this, and this seems very weird. And I was talking to her and I was like, okay, like you were a defense counsel. Like you're sitting there and the prosecutor like starts throwing keys around. Like, what do you do? What is your response to this? And she's like, I don't know, but it's bullshit. And I was like, yeah, okay. So we're like, we feel the same thing. We feel the same way on this, that it's like, it's what was her argument? Her argument was essentially like it's bringing in evidence that's not like arguing evidence that's not in part of the case, basically.
Yeah.
And also that it could confuse or mislead the jury. Like you're bringing in or that it's the attorney like testifying, which it kind of is. It's like talking about what you could possibly, like how the human eye works, how you could possibly see something. And I was like, well, how is that different from demonstrative evidence? Like in My Cousin Vinny, where he stands in the back of the courtroom and he's like, how many fingers am I holding up? And she's like, well, that's different because that's like her, like how credible the witness is, like what you are able to see, like how good your vision is. Whereas the other one is like trying to testify, the one when you're dropping the keys is like trying to testify as to like, what could anyone have seen? Like what probably did happen? What could you have seen? And I was like, oh yeah, I guess, okay, I can see that those are different things.
Yeah.
But so other than the weird like ring of keys moment, everything otherwise in all these 3 episodes seemed pretty accurate. I mean, sometimes the characters are like grandstanding a little bit or they're speculating a little bit, but like even the way they were asking questions, I thought in general was pretty good and pretty accurate. It was literally just like the judge and Ger having like their emotion off in chambers that was like a little bit crazy, but like otherwise this show was like right on the money. Like first off, when have you ever seen a show that ever has a law clerk? They're not on TV. They're not part of the judge's you don't like, no, there's just like the bailiff. Like that's, sometimes you have a secretary. Like you never get that character. And then to have the law be pretty accurate and the procedure be pretty accurate, even if it's truncated.
Yeah.
To have the cases feel like real cases. I mean, like that never, it's hard to, this is like part 2 of, what is it? The Vacation, A Paid Vacation.
Yes.
This is like part 2 of that, where you're like, oh, this is really good and it's really well done. And everyone worked really hard and did a great job. It took a chunk of my soul with it. So I probably will not watch it again anytime soon.
No.
No. But it was, I mean, if you're like a little baby law student or something, like it wouldn't be a terrible thing to watch, like just to see what you can catch. It was educational. It was great. It was just, it's all these really smart, accurate things happening in 1982 where the world is a dumpster fire and all the characters are like, well, that woman was mouthing back to you, so she probably deserved that smack in the mouth you gave her. Like,
Yeah, deferred sentence. Oh, it's fine. He'll go to rehab and he'll get better and he
yeah.
won't need prison.
Yeah. They literally ask him questions on the stand like, they asked the wife questions like, does he ever hit you when he's sober? And she was like, no. And then they were kind of like, well, see, he only hits you when he's drunk.
Listen, people don't beat people. Alcohol beats people.
That's exactly the tact that they take in this. And I was like,
yes.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot to soak in right
As it
there.
should be. Yep, correct.
But I thought I would have watched more episodes of this. I really liked this. It gave me like a Rumpel of the Bailey vibe. It was the one thing, like Rumpel gives you a little bit more of like a release valve. Like he's a little bit funnier. The judge kind of looks like Rumpel. I'm gonna be honest. He's like a little roly poly. And he's got some like, one-liners like, if you ever tell anyone what we said in chambers, I'm gonna hang you off the yard arm. And Garrett's character's like, what's the yard arm?
And he's like,
if you tell someone, you're gonna find out. And I'm like, haha, violence, haha, hilarious. But like it's still like cute and banter, but it's like not as much banter as was needed to relieve the massive tension that was every episode.
The characters weren't the point. The court case was the point.
Yeah.
Like I think you could probably have watched the entire season and you wouldn't have learned anything more about the characters than you already did because they're just there to establish the setting so that we can have this fake court case.
Yeah. Although, look, we learned in this episode that Ger's character was known to be young and handsome and have many girlfriends in law school. So we learned a thing.
Accurate. Okay. And I love it because he's got his like Muppet hair. He's like, what? And he's just like,
yeah. I'd like to think that the actress playing the defense attorney / his girlfriend or his friend from law school, I like to think that she was just ad-libbing. Like, hey cutie, who everyone loves. Hi.
Yeah.
Oh, and
wasn't even in the script.
When he goes back into chambers at one point during that episode, he's like, yeah, I had lunch with her. And the judge is like, well, she's pretty cute. Is that gonna be like a thing, like wedding bells soon? And I'm like, sir,
you can't tie this man down. He is a Rolling Stone.
I'm a wild stallion. I love that, like anything where Ger's character isn't like fully developed. They're like, well, I don't know, he is sexual. He is the sex. He is the sex, and that'll be the only characteristic we need to give him. And then he's just whatever the script calls for at the moment. But like when the script calls for nothing, sex ? And we'll go from there.
I just like how his very first thing, Deadly Harvest, has the fewest characteristics, and it was really like he wrote down a list of like, actually I hated this because nobody told me I was pretty and I didn't get to do all of the things that I wanted to do, and then he vowed never again, and then from that moment on
it was his quest
to ensure that at least one person would be like, man, you know how hot you are, and he'd be like, thank you, yes, that's in my contract. You're obliged to say that, but I still believe you. Yeah. Because this isn't that far away from Deadly Harvest either.
No, it's not, because Deadly Harvest is 77 and this is 82. So what's that, 5 years?
5 years. I think there's only like paid vacation in between.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, like I keep forgetting how dour everything was, like culture-wise, in the 70s and early 80s, and like then we end up watching some of the stuff from that time and I'm just like, oh, this is all really well done. It's like much better done than any of the stuff in the 80s and frankly some of the stuff in the 90s, but it is so dour and so hard to watch. Like hard to watch because it's good, not hard to watch the way that Airwolf is, where I was going cross-eyed.
Because they don't sugarcoat it. Yeah. They're like, sometimes you go to prison when you didn't do it because the cops want you to be the bad guy because they don't have to do their job.
Sometimes society is wrong and broken and you suffer for it.
Yeah. Sometimes we first let a rapist go, which was interesting and nuanced and not exactly just that, but we'll just put it that way. And then maybe we'll also let a wife beater go. And then, hey, let's cover police brutality and racism.
I didn't realize that I didn't think about it, but the only
Eh,
defendant that gets found guilty is the one where we are pretty sure he did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Gonna sit with that for a minute. I feel
Yeah.
like I feel like that's gonna bother us more than it bothered the show, because the show didn't seem that concerned.
Oh, the show didn't care. The show was
No.
like, hey, maybe you can get away with it. You want to know how? It kind of feels like, you know how the joke right now is that women have been mainlining true crime for years and we're all prepared. This really feels like, was there like a I gotta be ready for court thing happening here?
When I
Like,
get accused of rape, what exactly should I say?
yeah, well, what tactic am I, well, like, what tactic am I gonna, oh, I didn't hear her say no. I'm sorry, man. I don't know. I had my earplugs in. I wear them for sex.
Yeah.
I thought she was screaming in pleasure. Have you seen my dick? God. Does a thumbs up thumbs up at the judge? Get the thumbs up back. Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
what I'm talking
I
about.
do appreciate that the judge like smacks him down a little bit, like less levity from you. Like, I need you to just answer the questions, and you're not here to have a good time. Like, we're here to figure
Yeah.
out if you raped somebody. But that's really undercut by the end of the episode. That's like, well, boys will be boys. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So I enjoyed this, but it was, and like, I would recommend people watch it. I would. I think it would be more serious than anything that you're going to find on television today, or I would hazard to say like the last 20 years. Like, just like very, very hard hitting, but like you have to realize it's hard hitting and also of the moment that it came out, which is to say our values as a culture were a little bit different and
Yep.
almost solely masculine in 1982, and it's a slightly different world, and it's going to be a little hard to watch, but like just getting something that's even sort of legally accurate, like like how refreshing, like how interesting, how cool to watch. But there's not that many characteristics besides tell me that I'm pretty, right? I mean,
He's not really all that in it all that much. He'll
no.
kind of pop in and be like, dee 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 dee, I'm the hot young law clerk, and then he'll dance off the stage.
He
And
gets to
I've
sing a little to himself in the one episode where he's like putting books away on the shelf. Half characteristic.
yeah. I mean, he gets told he's pretty. He gets a
Mm,
vest and a suit,
yeah, which we
which is very
appreciate.
nice.
Yeah,
Yeah, he
little
gets to
corduroy
look
vest.
like slightly bored, but maybe a little bit interested, which is, also accurate.
He gets to like do like the fast I have somewhere to go walk while carrying like 6 binders on his chest.
Yeah. I think that's more of a law clerkeristic than it is a
Yeah, probably.
characteristic.
Probably.
Yeah. So I mean, he didn't have like it was good. It was interesting. I'm glad to know he was in another television show where he had like a recurring character. But maybe 1 or 1.5 raised eyebrows out of 5. Just from overall, like, it's early in his career. He hasn't really nailed all of his characteristics yet.
Yeah. Well, he was still
Um,
interested, I think, in what he was doing.
I think yeah. I think
Mhm.
there's definitely projects where you're like, oh, he's invested, and there's other ones where you're like, he needed money, which is there's no shame in that. Like
He's in it for the ham.
I will never shame someone for making money.
Oh, no.
No. You do
No,
what
we
you
do what
need
we
to
gotta
do.
do.
Look, I'm glad he had work.
Yeah.
Yeah, this just felt like really young Ger. So like 1.5 for being really young Ger in a really hot suit who gets told he's pretty once.
It is a good suit. Like, I feel like I
It's
don't
a
want
good
to give
suit.
it extra points because of the suit, but like it is a quality suit, and
It's
it's a quality young man.
yeah,
Mhm.
in it with his little floppy
Yeah.
like
Having
90s
one
boy
episode of
hair.
moral conundrum and then 2 episodes of being just a 1970s man, which is
Yeah.
rough.
Yeah.
What would I give it? I wish I remembered what I gave Paid Vacation, because I want to give these the same. I would give it something like an 8. I would give it like a solid 8 out of 10. I mean, so you'll see when we upload the episodes, like it is a bad VHS rip. Like, we did what we could, and I had to add the AI subtitles so I could understand, because sometimes with the sound quality it's a little garbledy. But it was interesting to watch. Like, I appreciate like the legal accuracy. I appreciate, look, anytime, like, you never get to see a law clerk on TV. So like seeing one and like Garrett does my job, like, like chef's kiss. I love it. I love it so much. I like him in the one episode being like youthful and like naive and like full of hope and like ethical conundrums. I don't love so much the other two episodes where he's just like a bro being a bro with bro cases. Like I don't love that as much, but you know, probably accurate to the time period. I will agree with you that that suit was chef's kiss. Good job. Whoever did the suits for him was like,
Correct.
it was the opposite problem of the hidden room, because in the hidden room they were like, oh, I don't know, sir, we only have this one clown sized sweater. Sorry. Yeah, so like in everything else they put him in extremely oversized like off the shoulder numbers that like he and all of his friends could wear like together. And I like that in this the problem seemed like it went the other way. They were like, we only have this one 1970s suit and it's maybe a little bit too tight for you. And he's like, nope, no, it's not. And so I'm like,
pulls girdle out of his back pocket. I will get in this.
One good fart, the whole thing would have exploded. But like, I was here for it. I was here for like the many softer sweaters that he wore under his little suits, like the softer side of Sears. I was here for that.
Yeah.
I was here for that. So yeah, like an 8. Yeah. I liked it. I think it's like prepare yourself for watching it because it subject matter wise and like character response wise, it's going to be harder than you think it's going to be. But like I think it was well worth it. I would watch more episodes of the show if I could find it. But if anyone even tries to look online, like it's called The Judge. Do you know how many TV shows were called The Judge? Like you're never, if you even Google like Judge TV show, Google will explode. It'll be like, we can't possibly give you an answer, and just your computer will start shooting out sparks. So it's sort of like, I wish they had given it some kind of a more unique name so that you could even have a chance of trying to Google search to find something. But we really lucked out with the VHS tape that we got to borrow through the Ger fan club. So if anyone has any other episodes, like I would totally be down to watch, because these were really interesting and really great. And I really appreciated it for a verisimilitude that like we just don't get anymore. We don't get something of this quality. But I also sort of get maybe why we don't get stuff of this quality, because like after 3 episodes I was like, oh,
exhausted.
My heart hurts a little bit. My heart is sad. My heart is tired.
Oh no, there's another one called The Judge. It's a TV series that ran from 86 to 93, and it follows dramatic family court situations involving children and adolescents in custody, paternity, delinquency, and adoption hearings.
If that's the one that I'm thinking of, that one has like an actual, it's like a Judge Judy. It has like a real judge.
Oh God.
And then there was one, and it may be the same show, where it was a real judge, like a real guy, but the cases were fake, but it was like a real guy. And like the people, they were like actors who had been given, like not lines, but like, this is who your character is, like little sides or whatever. And then they had to present a case in front of the real judge. And then the real judge was supposed to argue on it. Like we're supposed to rule on it himself, as though these were real people. Like there was some kind of a judge moment.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that was like a thing in the zeitgeist at the time, apparently.
Yeah, and I wish we still had more of that, because like now between the fake shows and the Judge Judy like over the top like small claims court shit, like you never, like you don't, this is an area that's like underexplored, and it's a bummer, because like I could watch this without clawing my eyes out. I can't watch the Law and Orders or the Closer or whatever. Like I can't watch any of those shows because they make me like angry. They make me really stressed out.
Yeah, like me trying to watch. So there's that vampire movie, The Invitation, which is terrible for like a number of reasons. But she's supposed to be a potter. No potters were consulted at any point, ever. At any point. They were like, we don't need to know that.
Was she just like mashing shit with her hands and going like,
she's supposed to be getting her master's in pottery.
Oh.
Which is, okay. I guess it's possible. It's a terminal degree. You can't like get a doctorate in pottery, I guess. But anyway, she's supposed to be throwing stuff on the wheel. She's in this beautiful room that's not dirty at all. And she's like failing repeatedly to throw stuff on the wheel. And like, you were getting a master's degree and you can't fucking throw a cup. You need to rethink your life because you've made a bad decision. I can throw 50 cups a day. You can't throw get the fuck stop. I lost. So I exactly get what you're saying. It's not even that complicated. Law is complicated.
Eh.
It's the draw of the show. Like Law and Order, people are coming for, I would assume, law, maybe
Some
order.
order,
I don't know. Yeah. So maybe attempt some accuracy.
I now only want to watch pottery-based programs with you. Because, like, when we watched, what was the one with, Bury Me in Niagara, where they had the like, turd rock that the guy has to swallow.
There was a, not Great British Bake Off, but the Great British Throwdown, and it was like a pottery show.
Oh, yeah,
It was a pottery competition show. You want to watch me be a judgy bitch, you should sit and watch the Great British Throwdown.
That is my favorite thing in this entire world. And the fact that you would even ask me if that's a thing that I wanted makes me question, frankly, the basis of our friendship.
I'm like, look at those glazed bubbles. You put that clear on way too thick. It shouldn't go. It's just like, yeah.
Well, that'll be the Patreon special episode. We'll just drink every time you get mad about pottery shit, and then
Rachel
I don't know, maybe
watching the
we
Great
die at
British
the end. I don't know.
Throwdown. Yeah, it could be good. It would be fun
All right, good.
for somebody.
We'll watch that, and we'll discuss the porno mag. We'll do that together. We'll just have pottery and porno. Those are things that go. Those are two great tastes that go great together.
I mean, it worked for Ghost.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There are no new ideas in the world, it turns out.
If you've watched anybody throw, the porno and pottery just definitely works together. Yeah.
There we go. We've now figured out the Patreon special episode. Okay. On that sexual ghost note, friends. Bye.
Bye. I'll put these up on YouTube. Bye.